You've probably seen cats sleeping together before, curled up side by side, sometimes even lying on top of each other like nothing in the world could disturb them. Most people look at a moment like this and think it's just something cute, something random, just two sleepy cats taking a nap. But what if I told you there's actually a much deeper reason behind this behavior? Because the truth is, cats are extremely careful animals. In the wild, sleep is one of the most dangerous moments for any cat. The moment they close their eyes, they become vulnerable. They can't react as quickly, they can't defend themselves the same way, and deep inside, their instincts still remember that. That's why what you're seeing here is much more important than it looks. When one cat chooses to sleep next to another, especially this close, it's a sign of complete trust. And trust is not something cats give easily. Cats are naturally cautious. Even house cats that spend their entire lives indoors still carry the instincts of wild hunters. They protect their space, they stay alert, they observe everything. That's why behavior like this surprises even animal experts sometimes. Because underneath this peaceful little moment, there's actually a silent form of communication happening between them. A communication based on comfort, safety, and emotional connection. What makes this even more fascinating is that cats don't randomly choose who they sleep with. They observe each other constantly, every movement, every sound, every habit, and over time, they slowly decide whether another animal feels safe enough to be close to during their most defenseless moments. That's why two cats sleeping together like this is actually something very special, and there's one detail most people completely miss. The position they choose while sleeping can reveal how strong their bond really is. For example, when a cat sleeps while touching another cat with its back or stomach, it's exposing the most vulnerable parts of its body. That's not something cats naturally do unless they feel completely secure. It's almost like their brain is saying, I trust you enough to let my guard down. And for animals with survival instincts as sharp as cats, that means everything. But this behavior didn't appear overnight. In many cases, the bond between two cats starts forming slowly through tiny everyday actions that humans barely notice. Sharing the same space, following each other around the house, watching birds together from the window, sleeping near each other before eventually sleeping together. At first, they might simply tolerate one another. Then, over time, that tolerance slowly turns into familiarity, and familiarity slowly turns into trust. Eventually, without most owners even realizing it, well, the two cats begin acting almost like family. And strangely enough, scientists have discovered that cats who form strong social bonds often become calmer, less stressed, and even healthier overall. Just the presence of another trusted cat nearby can reduce anxiety, it can create emotional stability, it can even change the way a cat behaves throughout the day, which means moments like this are not only adorable, they're emotionally meaningful too. And honestly, that changes the way you look at cats completely, because people often describe cats as cold or distant animals, but the more researchers study feline behavior, the more they realize something surprising. Cats may show love differently than dogs, but they absolutely form deep emotional attachments, sometimes in ways so subtle that most people never even notice them. And what happens next between cats who sleep together regularly becomes even more incredible, because after enough time together, some cats begin developing synchronized behaviors. They wake up at similar times, they groom themselves together, they eat around the same schedule, and sometimes they even begin sleeping in identical positions, almost like their routines slowly merge into one. It sounds unbelievable, but this kind of emotional synchronization has been observed in bonded cats over and over again, and the deeper the trust grows, the more physical closeness starts to appear. That's why some cats eventually sleep completely pressed against each other. Sometimes one cat even places its paw across the other while sleeping. Sometimes they curl their tails together, and in certain cases, one cat literally sleeps on top of the other. To humans, it looks adorable, but to cats, this behavior means you are safe with me. And maybe the most surprising part of all is that many cats will only behave this way with a very small number of animals in their entire lives. Not every cat earns that level of trust. In fact, some cats never become fully comfortable around other cats at all, especially if they had difficult experiences early in life. A cat that grew up alone, a rescue cat, a cat that experienced fear, abandonment, or competition for food and territory. Those experiences can deeply shape the way cats interact with others. That's why when you see two cats sleeping together peacefully, you might actually be witnessing years of emotional trust being built little by little. And the craziest part? Most humans completely overlook it. They see a cute moment, but cats are communicating something far more meaningful because unlike humans, cats don't use words. They use body language, distance, touch, eye contact, presence, and sleeping together is one of the strongest signs of emotional acceptance they can show. But there's another hidden reason cats sleep on top of each other that most people don't know. And once you understand this, you'll never look at your cat the same way again. Body temperature plays a huge role in feline behavior. Cats naturally love warmth. Their bodies are designed to conserve energy whenever possible. That's why they sleep so much during the day. Sleeping allows them to recharge while preserving calories. And when two cats sleep together, they create shared body heat. This may seem like a small detail, but in nature, conserving warmth could literally mean survival. Even today, domestic cats still carry those instincts. That's why they search for sunny spots, soft blankets, warm laundry, laptops, and of course, each other. But here's what makes this behavior emotional instead of purely instinctive. If warmth was the only reason, cats could simply sleep near another cat. But bonded cats choose direct contact. They press their bodies together, they rest their heads on each other, they sleep in positions that make them feel emotionally connected. And that's where the line between instinct and affection begins to blur. Because over time, cats begin associating specific individuals with feelings of comfort and security. In a way, certain cats become emotional safe spaces for one another. That's why some cats become anxious when separated from their closest companion. They search around the house, they vocalize more, they sleep differently, sometimes they even lose appetite temporarily. And while many people assume only dogs experience emotional attachment like this, cats absolutely do too. They simply express it more quietly, more subtly, and honestly, that's part of what makes feline behavior so fascinating. Cats rarely exaggerate emotions. They reveal trust in tiny details, small moments, quiet actions, like choosing to sleep next to someone, or slowly blinking at another cat before curling up beside them, or gently placing a paw over another cat while they sleep. These moments might seem insignificant to humans, but inside the feline world, they carry enormous emotional meaning. And perhaps the most beautiful part is this: cats don't fake trust. If a cat doesn't feel safe, it simply won't relax. It won't stay vulnerable. It won't sleep deeply beside another animal, which means scenes like this are completely genuine, pure comfort, pure trust, pure emotional safety. And there's actually another reason why experts believe cats sleep together: protection. Even though domestic cats live inside comfortable homes today, their instincts still remember the dangers their ancestors faced. In nature, resting near trusted companions increase survival, more eyes, more awareness, more protection. So when two cats sleep together, part of their brain still interprets it as safety in numbers, and this instinct becomes even stronger in cats that grew up together from kittenhood. Kittens naturally sleep piled together, not only because they're cold, but because physical closeness creates security. That feeling often stays with them for life, which is why bonded sibling cats sometimes remain inseparable even as adults. They eat together, play together, sleep together, and become emotionally attached in ways many people never expect from cats. But interestingly, not all cat friendships happen instantly. Some cats take months before they fully trust another cat. At first, there might be tension, territorial behavior, distance, observation. Then slowly, things begin to change. One cat starts sleeping nearby, then a little closer, then eventually side by side. And one day, the owner walks into the room and sees both cats completely asleep together for the very first time. That moment may seem small, but in the feline world, it's huge, because it means the emotional barrier between them finally disappeared. And if you've ever experienced this with your own cats, you know exactly how special it feels, especially when the cats originally disliked each other. Watching two formerly distant cats eventually curl up together feels almost unbelievable. And that transformation tells us something powerful about animals. Trust is built slowly, not through force, not through control, but through repeated feelings of safety. Cats teach that lesson incredibly well, and maybe that's one reason people feel so emotionally attached to them, because even though cats can seem mysterious, their affection feels deeply genuine. When a cat chooses you, or another cat, it feels earned. And perhaps that's why moments like this affect humans emotionally too. There's something peaceful about seeing two animals feel completely safe with one another. No fear, no stress, no tension, just trust. And believe it or not, researchers have even observed that humans themselves tend to relax when watching bonded animals sleep together. It creates a psychological feeling of calm, comfort, warmth, which explains why videos of sleeping cats become so popular online. People aren't only watching something cute, they're subconsciously responding to visible emotional safety. And deep down, everyone understands what safety feels like, even without words. But there's still one surprising behavior connected to sleeping cats that most people misunderstand completely, and it has to do with dominance. Because sometimes, when one cat sleeps directly on top of another, people assume the cat is trying to dominate or control the other. But in bonded cats, that usually isn't true at all. Most of the time, it simply means the cats are extremely comfortable together. The cat underneath doesn't feel threatened. It doesn't feel trapped. It feels secure enough to allow that closeness. And that level of comfort is actually very rare in the animal world, especially among naturally cautious animals like cats, which makes scenes like this far more meaningful than most people realize. Because underneath all the fluff, warmth, and cuteness, there's an invisible emotional bond holding them together. A bond built slowly through trust, routine, familiarity, and shared comfort. And honestly, maybe humans aren't so different after all. Because at the end of the day, whether it's cats or people, we all seek the same thing, a place where we feel safe enough to finally relax. But there's another fascinating detail hidden inside this behavior that almost nobody talks about. Cats can actually recognize emotional familiarity through scent. To humans, every cat may smell basically the same, but to another cat, scent is like an identity, a memory, a map of trust. That's why cats constantly rub their faces against furniture, walls, blankets, and even each other. They're leaving scent markers behind, tiny invisible signals that say, this place is familiar, this is safe, you belong here. And when two bonded cats sleep together regularly, their scents slowly begin to mix. Over time, they start developing what experts sometimes call a shared colony scent. That shared smell creates an even deeper sense of security. It helps the cats recognize each other as trusted companions, almost like members of the same family, which means sleeping together is not only emotional, it's biological too. Every nap strengthens the bond, every moment of physical closeness reinforces familiarity, and every peaceful sleep beside another cat tells the brain, you are not alone. And honestly, that idea changes the way we see cats completely. Because for years, people believed cats were mostly solitary animals, independent, detached, uninterested in social relationships. But modern studies have slowly revealed something much more complicated. Cats are selective socially, not emotionless. That's a huge difference. Cats don't trust easily. They don't instantly bond with everyone. But once they do form a connection, it can become incredibly deep, and sleeping together is one of the clearest signs that bond exists. In fact, animal behaviorists often pay close attention to sleeping patterns when evaluating feline relationships, because sleeping positions can reveal tension, comfort, anxiety, trust, and emotional attachment. For example, cats that merely tolerate each other usually sleep in the same room but maintain distance. Bonded cats do the opposite. They seek closeness, touch, warmth, contact. Sometimes they even adjust their sleeping position during the night just to stay connected. And maybe the most incredible thing is this: cats don't need words to create emotional understanding. A slow blink, a gentle head bump, a shared sleeping spot. These tiny actions become their language. And over time, that silent language becomes incredibly powerful. There are even stories from rescue centers where cats who arrived scared, nervous, and emotionally withdrawn slowly transformed after bonding with another cat. Some cats that refused to relax began sleeping peacefully once they found a trusted companion. Others became more playful, more affectionate, less anxious, which shows just how emotionally important companionship can be for certain cats. And maybe one of the most beautiful parts of all this is realizing that animals experience comfort emotionally too, not just physically, emotionally. That feeling of safety, of calm, of belonging. And when you really think about it, that's exactly what these two cats are showing each other while they sleep. No words, no expectations, no conditions, just silent trust. But here's where things become even more surprising. Some researchers believe cats can actually develop preferred sleeping partners. Yes, even in homes with multiple cats, many bonded cats repeatedly choose the same companion to sleep beside, and this choice often remains consistent for years. That means cats are not randomly selecting the nearest warm body. They are making social decisions. They're choosing specific individuals that make them feel secure, and that tells us something incredibly important about feline intelligence. Cats remember emotional experiences. If another cat repeatedly creates feelings of safety, calmness, warmth, and familiarity, the brain begins associating that individual with emotional comfort. Over time, sleeping beside that cat becomes part of their emotional routine, and routines matter enormously to cats. Cats thrive on predictability, familiar smells, familiar places, familiar sounds, familiar individuals. That's why even small changes inside a home can sometimes affect feline behavior. A moved couch, a new pet, a loud visitor, a sudden absence. Cats notice everything, which is exactly why trusted companionship becomes so emotionally valuable. And if you've ever had a cat sleep beside you every single night, then you've probably experienced this yourself, because cats don't sleep deeply near someone they don't trust. The position of a sleeping cat reveals almost everything about its emotional state. A tense cat remains alert, ears active, body prepared to move, muscles partially engaged. A relaxed cat does the opposite. It stretches, exposes vulnerable areas, sleeps deeply, sometimes even twitches or dreams comfortably. And when that happens beside another cat, that level of trust becomes even more meaningful, especially because cats are naturally territorial animals. Territory matters deeply to them. Their favorite spots, their sleeping areas, their safe zones. So when a cat willingly shares one of those safe spaces with another cat, it's a major emotional gesture. It means, I feel safe enough to let you into my world. And honestly, that might be one of the purest forms of trust an animal can give. But something even more fascinating happens during sleep itself. Scientists studying animal behavior have observed that bonded animals often experience reduced stress responses simply from physical proximity. Heart rates become calmer, anxiety decreases, the body relaxes more deeply, and while research on feline social sleep is still growing, many experts believe cats experience similar emotional regulation when sleeping beside trusted companions. In simple terms, being close to someone they trust literally helps them relax, and maybe that's why scenes like this feel so peaceful to watch, because what we're really seeing is emotional safety in its purest form. Not forced, not trained, not commanded, chosen. And that's what makes feline affection so powerful. Cats always choose. They choose who they trust, who they approach, who they avoid, who they sleep beside, which means moments like this are deeply intentional. And there's another behavior connected to bonded sleeping cats that many owners notice over time: protective awareness. Sometimes when one cat wakes up suddenly, the other wakes up too, almost instantly, even from deep sleep. It's almost as if they subconsciously monitor each other. That level of awareness only appears between animals that feel emotionally connected. And interestingly, similar behaviors appear in many social species throughout nature. Wolves, primates, elephants, even certain birds. Physical closeness during rest creates emotional stability. And while cats remain more independent than many social animals, moments like this reveal they are far more emotionally complex than people once believed, which explains why cat behavior continues fascinating scientists around the world. The more we study cats, the more we realize how much emotional depth exists beneath their quiet personalities, and perhaps that's why people who truly understand cats become so attached to them, because earning the trust of a cat feels incredibly special. It isn't automatic, it isn't easy, it's built slowly through patience, routine, gentleness, safety, exactly the same way cats build trust with each other. And maybe that's why seeing two cats sleep together feels strangely emotional even to humans, because deep down, everyone understands the importance of feeling safe enough to rest beside someone, without fear, without stress, without needing to stay alert, just peace. And for animals whose instincts are built around survival, peace is one of the rarest gifts of all. But believe it or not, there's still one final reason why cats sleep together that might be the most surprising of all, and it has everything to do with emotional memory.